Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a host ho 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 Toho edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party!
Monster Party!
That was my Godzilla sound. Yeah, I'm working on it.
Godzilla sound.
I'm workshopping it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is exciting. This is the end of the year. This is our last episode of the year.
We survived another one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're still together. We're still talking to each other.
Can you believe it?
And one of the reasons I think we're talking to each other is because there's this certain character in movies that we love that keeps us all together, I think. It's the glue,
Yes.
really, that
But
holds
speaking of
Monster
togetherness, who are you, sir?
Party. Well, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Togetherness.
Togetherness. Yes, that is what we do. We've been doing it for over 10 years now. We still like each other, and we still love Godzilla. And maybe more than ever. I mean, it's just been one of the things I have to say. It's been a great year for Godzilla.
Yeah.
True.
So it's a perfect way to go out for this this final episode. So we're calling this episode Monster Party's Godzilla Stompin' New Year's Bash.
Yeah, Monster Party, Godzilla Stompin' New Year's Bash. Yes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, yes.
Not too many notes. We're gonna have to pay. If Akube's on the phone.
But Matt, to do this show, we need someone who's really special. Someone who's a Godzilla expert, wouldn't you say?
I would agree, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, guys, keep your pants on because, our guest tonight.
They're tightly attached.
Okay, good. Our guest tonight is not only a Godzilla expert, but he's a celebrated Japanese film, TV, and tokusatsu expert. Now, I first learned of this guest back in the 70s watching Creature Features.
Right,
As he showed off his stunning Godzilla collection to host Bob Wilkins. I mean, when he did that, I was so jealous. I wanted to rob him. But I saw him again. No, I know, it's so me. I saw him again in the late 1979 on KTVU's Captain Cosmic TV show, talking about animated Japanese films and TV shows. I mean, our amazing guest is a writer, a commentator, a lecturer. He's done work on a slew of liner notes for DVD releases. He's edited and authored numerous translated scripts for films, and he's written multiple periodicals for American and Japanese film magazines, including famous Monsters of Filmland. Hello.
Oh, yes.
Yes, he is a copywriter and commentator for Shout Factory, and many of his Super Sentai segments can still be found on YouTube. But he is also the author of a must-have book called EIJI TSUBURAYA, Master of Monsters. I have my own treasured signed copy, and it's such an honor to have this man back. Guys, please welcome the legendary August Ragone.
Oh, yes.
Thanks,
Welcome
guys.
back.
How you doing? Thank you.
Oh,
great.
We're doing
Thanks for having
great.
me back.
We are so happy to have you back. And I, if I can gush a little bit, I'm telling you, that EIJI TSUBURAYA book is just, it's like, I mean, and I'm not even buttering you up when I say that it's like in my top must-have books that you need about film. It is so great.
We all have it.
And mine is not signed, so we have to remedy that. Someday.
Well, we'll fix that.
Yeah,
We'll fix that at some point.
Yeah, but I got that first edition. It's like one of my most prized possessions. So thank you for making that happen.
Yeah.
No,
yes,
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing with that is that just as a sidebar, when I first approached writing the book, which was a deal, it was a co-op that was going on between Chronicle Books and EIJI TSUBURAYA's company, Tsuburaya Productions, the creators of Ultraman. So they wanted to do this project. They tapped me to write it, and my approach was I was going to go for a lot more film history. And, I was going into things like explaining in the early part of the book about things like the Pomeroy process, and the Shuftan process, the optical effects kind of things, and a lot of effects jargon. And Chronicle Book said, okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to junk all of that. Approach this book as a 101. It's not a technical book.
Right.
So, this is like introduction to, Eiji Tsuburaya. So that kind of like, I went, oh, okay, sure. You guys are signing the checks. So no problem.
Right.
But there is a chance why I say this in the first place is that we may be doing another edition of the book.
Cool.
There's a possibility.
Okay.
And there is a possibility for another edition where I'm going to revise the book enough that it will be worth buying an additional copy of.
Cool. I'm there. I'm there.
You had me, buddy.
Yeah, I'm hooked. I'm hooked.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's one of those things too, where I have a feeling that if you really wanted to, it could be like a 5-volume set, right? I mean,
it could be.
I'll talk to my people.
Yeah, please do. And then we'll talk to your people. We'll talk to my people and somebody else's people, and those people will talk to the others. And then
as long as people are talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, August, please keep us informed because as soon as this happens, man, we want to let people know about it. And
big time.
And I'll get a signed copy of that one too.
Yes. Excellent. Oh yes.
But today,
Godzilla.
It's all about guys. Think about it. And August,
I will.
Godzilla came out in 1954 in Japan. This was October 27th, 1954. And here we are. We're just on the cusp of 2024. Godzilla's been around for 70 years.
Amazing.
38 films and more being planned. I mean, it's a great time to be a Godzilla fan, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's also irrespective of like the legendary films, whether you like them or not, and the adjacent Monarch series.
Mm-hmm.
And Toho's best film in years, Godzilla Minus One.
Oh,
they've done some amazing things that a lot of people outside of Japan, except for some hardcore fans, might not know, which is that over the last several years that Toho has been doing 4K scans of their Godzilla films.
Right. Right. Like all of them, right? All the way back to the beginning ones.
Yeah, they originally announced it as they were going to tackle every Toho produced film.
Wow.
Going back to the original Elements.
Wow.
And we're talking in a lot of cases, camera negatives, going that far.
Right.
Whatever is still extant. Now,
Right.
This was announced a number of years ago. The only thing that really came out of it in the immediate time after the announcement was a re-release of Godzilla 54 in Japanese theaters, which was their 4K, which Criterion's was a 2K, their restoration.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they did even more cleanup, and it looks amazing. So that was just shown theatrically
in Japan.
And only in a couple of cities, I think Tokyo and Osaka.
Okay.
Wow.
Then they it ended up on cable, on satellite. The Japanese have a thing called satellite cable.
Okay.
And there was a Japanese movie specialty channel that will run films like that. They ran a 2K downscale of the 4K. And then they also premiered the 4K restoration of King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, wow.
The 1962 film. They finally found all the missing elements because that was a Frankenstein job.
No.
Because do we have time to talk about this?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll make time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so
you're the man. I need to know this.
Well, there was a 1970 re-release of King Kong versus Godzilla in Japan. Toho had started in 1969 doing a series of seasonal kiddie matinee presentations, packages.
Mm-hmm.
And that would include a movie or a re-release of an old movie, and then a bunch of short subjects, which were mostly either animated or live-action TV show episodes blown up to 35.
Right.
And so that would make like a 3-hour package, of entertainment. So the parents could drop their kids off at the theater and then go get some shopping done,
Right.
Or make brothers and sisters for their kids. But
right.
Busy schedule.
But anyway, so under that banner, that's where the films Godzilla's Revenge, Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, Godzilla vs. Hedorah through Terror of Mechagodzilla were released under. They weren't general audience releases. They were kiddie matinee movies. So when people go like, why did Godzilla get all goofy in the 70s? Well, it was because they were made for kiddie matinees. But they also started by doing re-releases of the older films, the 60s films. But they were going to cut them down. They were going to cut the films down to about 60 minutes apiece.
Oh, wow.
And Ishiro Honda, the director, when he heard about this, he was kind of concerned that they were just going to cut his films willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So he said, I'll go in there and cut the films myself.
No.
So one of these was King Kong versus Godzilla, cut down to about an hour and change. And a lot of the trimmed footage, because they went right to the negative.
Yeah.
A lot of the trimmed footage went missing.
Because what they cut out, they just completely got rid of.
Yeah.
It was bad accounting. No one knew where it was.
Right.
Nobody knew where this footage was. So in the 80s, when home video took off and Toho had their company Toho Video and started putting out these films, one of the most requested was King Kong versus Godzilla, because that was like the big hit. That was a real big hit in 1962.
Right.
It was a box office champ. And they went, we can't put this out because we don't have a complete version.
No way.
Yeah. So what happened was, eventually through networking and hunting around, in 1985, they were finally able to release it on Beta VHS and Laserdisc, but all the missing footage was culled from a scope 16 millimeter rental print.
Wow.
You're kidding.
That explains a lot.
That was really all scratched up.
Yeah.
So Toho went through a couple of cycles of re-releasing that film on Laserdisc in the 90s, and there was at the time some very primitive digital cleanup software, and they were able to clean the stuff up a little bit, but it's still, you could see where it would shift from one quality to the other.
Mm-hmm.
The first Laserdisc, which a friend of mine, I was living in Japan at the time, and a friend of mine, they got it, and we're all going to watch it together. And that was like a revelation, because it was the first time to see the complete Japanese version of this film. Because all I grew up with was the Universal International version.
Right.
That's the one we all saw.
Yeah.
Right. So they continued to do this and trying to digitally restore it each time it came out on, another format, DVD, Blu-ray. But recently, when they started doing this Godzilla project, this Godzilla 4K project, they stumbled upon all the stuff.
Really?
And so they were able to reincorporate it into the film and then do a 4K scan of this movie. Toho released it on home video in May 2021 after showing it on cable, and then it also played in theaters. And let me tell you, this film has never looked better in any format, period. A lot of the inherent problems that we had to live with over the years, from prints being made off of dupe positives, and then dupes of dupes, and then television reduction prints. And there are a lot of things that were cleaned up, like a lot of the imbalance in matting, and a lot of like contrast problems. Pretty much, I would say 85 to 90% solved. And
the octopus, did they solve that at all? Because that's always sort of been a kind of a wincing moment watching that movie. Is just because it's a live octopus, right?
Right.
And it's clearly, it's an effects series of shots. Does that look any better now?
Yeah, it actually does.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, the sequence looks really good. compared to what we've seen, what is even previously on King Kong versus Godzilla. But it's just they did a really great job of rebalanced color timing, contrast. It's a magnificent. What they did even is they put it in a special box set. It comes with a booklet with unreleased photographs.
Wow!
From behind the scenes, and a lot of them were personal shots taken by the film's art director.
Wow!
And then a book which was an illustrated story that came out in a boys magazine when the film was released. So it's like, and it's kind of printed, ironically enough, it's kind of printed in the same format as those religious comics that people
like a Jack Chick pamphlet.
Yeah, exactly. But that comes in the set as well, and they have the 4K UHD 4K disc and a Blu-ray of the 4K, so you can have both formats. Even though that's it's 1080p and the UHD is 2160p.
Right.
But in case you don't have a 4K player, they give you the two essentially it's not really a 2K, but they Japanese call it a 2K downscale, but that comes in a set. So that made a lot of people crazy. That thing came out, sold out. It's back in print.
Now that's not available in America, though, right? And it's not.
No, but you can order it. You can order it online from Amazon Japan, which has English language support. You could just switch the English language, and you could just navigate entirely.
Right now, is that box set English friendly or not?
It is not.
No,
right. I figured it wasn't. Yeah. Toho usually doesn't make that stuff English friendly. It seems like.
Well, the main reason why is because foreign licensees would go like, "Hey, you're cutting into our sales." So currently the current owner of the original, I want to say the original 15 Godzilla movies, but 14 plus 1, which would be Godzilla, the Japanese version, and the Burr version. And then every other film to, Terror of Mechagodzilla, excluding King Kong versus Godzilla, is Janus Films Criterion.
Oh, right.
So they're the current license holder for that. Universal has King Kong versus Godzilla into perpetuity.
Okay.
And that was the deal they signed with Toho way back in 1962. And Toho's still kicking themselves over that.
Yeah,
very smart.
So you still have that version with the Creature from the Black Lagoon music playing.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, what's going on here?
There's even a couple of cues in there from Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman.
Right.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy.
So, I have a question about the quality because they did a cleaned up version of War of the Worlds, the 60s War of the Worlds a few years back. And what they did is something that I thought that they should have done forever, which was the one thing that always kind of pulled me out of that movie was just how many wires you could see.
Right.
So they made all of that look better. Now, I liked it when they did it for that film, but when it comes to a Godzilla movie, I want to see the strings. I want to see the zipper.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I find that charming,
I've got some good news, and I've got, that, you can still see some of that in these versions because they didn't muck about, with them. They weren't, changing what was on screen.
Okay.
They were just improving the original image quality. Now with proper color timing and contrast and all of that, the reason why you saw a lot of wires on versions we grew up with on television or later home video releases, whether they're from Japan or not, a lot of them suffered from being bad dupes. So blemishes like that would stand out more. Okay. So sometimes you can see them, sometimes you don't. Like Bob Burns said, the great Bob Burns, in that War of the Worlds audio commentary, that when he saw the film in the theater, you couldn't see all the wires.
Really?
And he said because of the way the Technicolor process was done, and the way that they lit the scenes and the way that it was the light
projected,
had a lot to do with you could see them, but you couldn't see them all. You didn't see 12 wires. You might see one. You know,
Right.
you might see kind of perceived
Fleetingly.
one. Right, fleetingly, right. And
That's fine.
And then he went into talking about how once it showed up on television, or when they re-released the film, the theaters in a non-Technicolor print, that you could see the wires all over the place.
Right.
That was something that he goes, I witnessed this film firsthand on first day.
Wow.
No, it didn't have the wires. So it's kind of a similar case here. There was a print of Destroy All Monsters that was a really lousy dupe with a really terrible what we call the international dub.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which was done by a company called Frontier Enterprises in Tokyo, that was run by an expat American named William Ross. And that's just a horrendous dub. But that print, you could really see the wire pulling up Rodan when Rodan dives in the water at the beginning of the film to catch what appears to be a porpoise.
The dolphin or something?
Oh, that's
dolphin
right.
or a porpoise. And then you could see the wire pulling him out from the head in the close-up shot. But then and it depends on the version you see, that you can't see the wire. And some prints you can't see it, and I've seen it theatrically numerous times, and it's hard to see the wire. But there are a couple of video prints where you can see the wire. So even better news about King Kong vs. Godzilla in '54 in 4K. The buck didn't stop there. So it was in 2021 that the Japanese specialty movie channel announced that they were going to be broadcasting 8 Godzilla films that have been restored in 4K.
Nice.
And that included the original 54, King Kong versus Godzilla, Mothra versus Godzilla 1964, Ghidra 1964 as well, Monster Zero, or Invasion of the Astro Monsters 1965, and then Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla versus Hedorah 1971, and Godzilla versus Biollante.
Oh,
Oh, that's interesting.
All 4Ks. All 4K restorations.
Unbelievable.
And this time when they went through the cycle, they cooperated with another Japanese satellite cable channel called the Jidaigeki Channel 4K, which the Jidaigeki means period, like a period story or period piece. And it's like basically the Samurai Channel would be the best way to relate that.
Okay.
And they had a 4K channel. And so they said, we'll run the quote unquote what the Japanese call pure 4K. So they ran 2160p copies on air on their channel, while the Japanese specialty channel was running the 2K downscales.
Jeez.
Now, that was amazing. Then what happened was then they said, hey, in 2022, we've got some more films. And they had done 4Ks of Matango, Attack of the Mushroom People. Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yay!
Nice.
Frankenstein versus Baragon. And why am I forgetting the other film?
Is it Gargantuous?
Gargantuous?
No, it's not Gargantuous. If it was Gargantuous, it would not yet.
I'll lose my mind if that one comes out. Yeah.
Now, at the same time, all this is happening, and this is all culminating in this big year of Godzilla we have now, is that they also announced 4Ks that were going to be shown theatrically in Japan, as sort of a Fathom Events type thing, where there was a Japanese film festival called the 11 o'clock film show that is shown in select theaters in Japan. And they do a whole month of programming. It's like a whole month festival, and they're showing things like Aliens in 4K, and like American films and Japanese films. And they announced, we're going to be bringing you Mothra, the 1961 version of Mothra in 4K.
Wow.
So Toho has also done Mothra in 4K, Rodan,
yay,
in 4K.
Wow.
And The Mysterians just was shown this summer.
Nice.
And all 3 of those movies were in very serious need of restoration.
Right.
And now I could tell you with Mothra, we'll go in the order of the way they came out. With the 4K of Mothra, they found something in the vaults that they did not know, that was considered a myth. So
Really?
yes, which I have to preface.
A myth, not a moth. A myth.
Not a myth. A myth. It's a mothic myth.
Okay.
Here on Mothbusters.
Yes. in the early 90s, Toho Music put out a series of CD soundtracks, and those were distributed like at Virgin Megastores all over Europe and the
I
United
remember
States.
I bought a lot of those.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
They just
Still have them.
found them a tower.
Okay, excellent. So one of them was Mothra, and it was the first time they had done the complete soundtrack in any form. And there was a track. The first track on there was Overture, and everybody kind of speculated what was this Overture thing. And some people did some research eventually and found out that the movie played in theaters in first release with an overture, just like 2001.
Really?
Lawrence of Arabia, in only 8 theaters in Japan. 4 theaters in Tokyo, 4 theaters in Osaka.
Wow.
And this was considered missing because every print of Mothra that has come out on home video or television prints, even the prints that were delivered to Columbia had these flaws from a dupe negative. So while they're digging through the vaults to do this 4K, they found the overture.
Wow.
And they reinstated it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right. So it's it's about a minute and a half of music.
Right.
It's just blank like it's supposed to be. The
Right.
closed. And as the overture ends, then the curtains open with the Toho logo,
Oh, that's
so cool. Yeah, that's
it's
awesome.
It's like as you've got your popcorn and you're going back to your seat, the music comes on. It's like, I gotta get to my seat, before the curtain. I love that. But it's like for television, it's like you don't need that. I can imagine that.
But it makes it an event, it makes
But that's that's sort of my dream screening, which is to get all the overture movies, 2001, we'll get Mothra, we'll get Lawrence of Arabia, and there's your film class right there.
Yeah, well, there you go. And they did a spectacular job of restoring Mothra, and it looks amazing. There were a couple of things they found in the original negatives. They found trims. They found a couple little spots that are missing from all the prints that have been released ever since the first theatrical release. A second here, a couple seconds there. Nothing startling, but then there's also like a scene will start like a second earlier than it did, in the prints we're accustomed to. There was also, if anybody has that Sony set, the icons of Toho, the Mothra and all that. So even the Japanese version of Mothra that's on that set, that Columbia or Sony now owns, there's one sequence in there where it's not inherent in the dubbed version because they could just do whatever they wanted with the dubbed version. But you'll notice there's a pilot when a pilot sights Mothra off the coast of Japan in the Pacific, and he's in a Saber, F-86F Saber, and he's reporting in, but what he's saying, it doesn't match his lip movements in the bubble, in the cockpit. And it was just like, wow, did Toho really make that bad of a gaffe, or people would make a joke like they can't even dub their own films right.
Right. Like it's looped or something, right?
Was it originally like Death to America or something like that?
I think it was Death to PepsiCo. But, but anyway, so that was from a print that was made off of a dupe negative. And that's not inherent in the original negative or the original release print. So they fixed it. They were able to fix that and a myriad of other minor problems. They were also, with all these films too that I'm talking about, they've also gone back to the original sound tapes. They've had the original sound elements. So they were able to clean up the sound even more.
Cool.
On all these. So all these look great. All these sound great. Now you're saying like, okay, yeah, you will. They put out the King Kong versus Godzilla, but on disc. But what else have they put out? Well, just today in Japan, they just dropped Godzilla versus Hedorah and Biollante on Blu-ray on 4K. So they're released as a separate. You can buy them separately. You could buy a UHD version, or you could just buy the Blu-ray. Now the UHD is no region lock. And the Japanese Blu-rays are the same region code as the US.
Oh,
right.
That's good.
That's right.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, I have a region, we have a region-free player, and we can play all regions of DVDs, but often we can't play all regions of Blu-rays.
Right.
So that's okay. That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty.
To see Hedera in like 4K glory with all its psychedelic insanity and animation and weirdness, that would be awesome.
And August, just out of curiosity, did they find any little extra bits of Hedera? I mean, well, like little clips that were taken out of the film or something?
No, it's pretty much the release version we got is pretty much the release version we got. But in October, let's backtrack to October, and they announced this back in, I think, in June. We're putting all the Godzilla 4Ks we have now on disc this year. They announced that in July. October, it was Godzilla 54 and Mothra versus Godzilla. So November, last month, they put out Ghidorah, Monster Zero, and Destroy All Monsters. And now this month is the last two titles of what they announced, which are Hedera and Biollante. And a couple of my friends on the West Coast and a couple of my friends in Illinois got their copies already in the mail.
Wow. See, I would love to watch something like that because we're all Hedera fans here.
Yeah,
and
as well you should be.
Yes, sometimes people, the first time they see it, it might have been on a black and white TV, and so you don't necessarily see all the colors of Hedera, and everyone thinks, "Oh, well, he's just kind of gray."
But it's just
so much more.
It's gorgeous.
There's sparkles in it.
And it's just it's the strangest Godzilla film ever made. It's just so insane and awesome.
And that old AIP print, I mean, I had seen it in a matinee on first release, and anytime I'd seen it since then on VHS, I mean, it's just so much of it is dark and it's murky and it's grainy.
Right.
And since then, the Blu-ray releases have been so much better. No matter which Blu-ray, it's still way better than what we had before.
Yeah. All these 4Ks blow away what Toho has previously done in Blu-ray. Wow. And I'll tell you that the Criterion set, I don't want to denigrate the Criterion set. A lot of people love it.
Sure.
That's great. We all have that. Yeah.
I didn't buy it, not because I was protesting, but I knew these 4Ks were going to be coming out. And I went, what do I want to save my peanuts for?
Sure.
But the only downside of the, there's a couple of people can hash about, but visually they say that Toho did not allow Criterion to have access to film prints for that box set. The only two films that they had, which were re-releases of, is Godzilla 54 and the Burr 56 versions.
Right.
So that was just ported over. But what Toho gave them were their old, what they call high vision transfers from 2008 that are so obsolete now. They were obsolete in 2018.
Sure.
Okay.
And anyway, so the only thing that Criterion allowed them to do, because Criterion said, can we maybe tweak it a little bit? And Toho said, you can tweak it a little bit. So they were able to fiddle with the contrast and things like that a little bit. They were able to touch it, but those were pretty much the basis. Those high vision transfers were the basis of all the Toho Blu-rays released in Japan.
Okay.
Which I already had anyway, right?
Right.
So these 4Ks make them look like garbage.
Wow.
These 4Ks make every previous version released on home video look like garbage.
Wow.
It's so crazy. Yeah. It's so interesting how, these movies have been with us for decades. We grew up with these things since we were little kids. But with technology now, with home video, and they're just getting these new leases on life. I mean, I'm glad to see Toho really taking the care about their history of stuff, even if a lot of these movies were considered just for kids at the time, but it's so much not the case often in America, where or whatever Warner Brothers, Universal with their Universal Monster, nobody knows how to treat these historically
their own things,
precious projects. It's so weird. So it's great.
The BBC were the same way with Doctor Who. They didn't know.
They would just literally throw them in the trash. I mean, it's just. But it's so.
There's one thing about Godzilla versus Hedorah, which is that This is what I love about Japanese culture. That was a film that was made, as you said, for a kiddie matinee. And and that movie is so bonkers and has some kind of weird, disturbing imagery.
Absolutely.
And I just love the fact that, like, look, kids, we know what you like.
Yeah.
We're not going to coddle you. This is what you want.
You know what? The real world is weird and fucked up.
Right, exactly.
You need to show it.
Right. There were like very different standards for like children's entertainment in Japan than here.
Yeah.
At that time. Even though the Japanese PTA and concerned parents groups were fighting tooth and nail the entire way, kicking and screaming, they finally kind of got their way in the 80s and 90s. But I mean, in that period of the 70s, oh my God, Japanese kids television.
Yes,
right.
Superhero TV shows where people are reduced to skeletons.
Right. Little kids with guns shooting people. And
I just, humans being the monsters, like melting people. Like people with melted face. It's like the Incredible Melting Man for kids.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And I love that. I love that.
The Incredible Melting Man presented by Romper Room.
Meanwhile, in America, you had Saturday morning Super Friends saying, remember Aquaman says swim with a partner all the time.
Yeah,
it was so.
Eat raw vegetables.
No, Sean, you remember in America there were these things about how they said television for kids is too commercialized.
It was the whole violence
rules.
I know.
There was these rules. You had to have bad and remember the violence was toned down. You're not going to see Batman and Robin fighting, hitting people.
Right. Well, you did that change in the 70s because you did in the 60s. You had cool, violent cartoons like Space Ghost and Herculoids, and then it changed, and it was Super Friends, and they were like, "Oh, let's help this misguided guy who's like,
cut to Japan and Kamen Rider." And August, correct me if I'm wrong on this. If this is a Kamen Rider episode, but I remember one where it starts with a wedding, and then Shocker comes in and murders everyone. And you're like, okay, kids, here we go. And I was just like, hey, there are bad people out there.
The bad guys use nerve gas and or whatever they had going, acid rain, whatever.
Right,
But there's an interesting story about why one of the main reasons why American children's television got clamped down so hard, where it became a boiling point. And it was like in the late 60s when a lot of these groups just said, this can't happen anymore. We're going to form these coalitions there was like the Catholic Church and all these other groups, PTAs. And Speed Racer was the main culprit.
Really? No.
Because Speed Racer was unabashedly violent. Everybody died in car crash.
Well,
that's true.
Happens.
What, there aren't car accidents in America? Hello?
Oh, yes. But you don't have people like purposely knocking people's cars off the road, and
or shooting at them.
That, there were also like episodes that were influenced by the whole Bond craze, the Bond craze, which even touched Japan. And there's one particular episode, I think, if I have it remembered rightly, there were some bad guys, some gangster kind of international smuggler bad guys, and they wanted to get rid of this guy who had headphones on, right? So the guy goes back to his station. They swapped out his headphones, and the guy puts the headphones on and goes, and falls over. The bad guy comes up behind him, pulls the headphones off the guy's head, pushes the button, and 2 spikes come out.
Yes, I remember that.
Oh my gosh.
Good times.
I never looked at headphones the same way.
That's why don't buy cheap headphones. Don't get them at Ross.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if I'm assuming that you're also a Jerry Anderson fan. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite Jerry Anderson shows, Captain Scarlet.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, right.
Captain Scarlet. I love that show. And what I love about it, one of the things that just right off the bat, you're like, okay, we're in for a good time here, is the opening credit sequence has Captain Scarlet walking along in an alley. All of a sudden, there's a spotlight on him, and he's an indestructible man. So he gets shot at, and nothing happens. And then he pulls out his gun, shoots, and you hear a guy go, "Ugh," and that's the opening credits every week.
Bum, right. Man, fate is made invincible. His name, Captain Scarlet. Interesting Captain Scarlet story.
Please.
When I was working with Bob Wilkins at Channel 2, when he was doing the Captain Cosmic show, this all involves Japanese monsters and all that. Bob's idea to do this, bring back the hosted kids show, Channel 2 in the 60s had a character called Captain Satellite.
I remember that. Yes,
played by the late great Bob March. And it was just a cartoon show. So they would show short cartoons, come back to the kids in the spaceship, and doing little science lessons, and they go and visit Children's Fairyland in Oakland or some
or like how to shoot people.
Yeah, that's it. and so anyway, Bob had this idea to do this, but he was inspired on a vacation he took to Hawaii in '77. And they were showing all these crazy Japanese shows on television there. They had a Japanese language channel. They had a TV show called Kikaida.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Love
Huge fan.
Yeah.
And though these shows were subtitled, Bob was ahead of his time. Bob saw these shows, saw how popular they were across ethnicities. All these kids running around of every shade wearing the T-shirts and playing with the toys, and was in every department store, everywhere you went. And Bob goes, there's got to be a way I could bring this to Channel 2. And Bob told me these stories himself. So his idea was to try to bring over these TV shows. And he had some pushback. People are going, because he said we could even just show subtitled shows on Captain Cosmic in the afternoon. And people said, well, kids aren't going to want to read. That's unprecedented. Nobody's done that. And he goes, kids aren't, and I remember Bob saying, having a discussion at Channel 2 with somebody and said, kids aren't stupid, they can read.
Right.
So that was his initial idea, was to try to get these shows. He was kind of stonewalled by the Japanese company. Well, he approached the station in Hawaii and they said, well, you're going to have to go to the Japanese broadcasters because that's how we got the shows. Although at the same time, the same shows that this station in Honolulu, KIKU 13 or Kiku TV, were running, some of those were playing in San Francisco on Channel 20 on their Sunday night Japanese programming, playing in Los Angeles, playing in New York. Because you had Channel 20, you used to have a block of Italian programming and a block of Spanish.
Right.
The whole Spanish thing. And then they had the Japanese channel. They had the same thing in LA. I think it was LA was Channel 47, I think. But anyway, they ran a lot of these shows, a lot of these like Kikaida, all those played in LA too.
And wasn't that was like foreshadowing? That's looking ahead of what they ended up doing with the Power Rangers, right? In the 80s. Right. I mean, that's exactly what he was thinking of what they actually did later.
Yeah,
I mean, the Power Rangers was a huge hit because he just took them and showed them in America.
But it was the same, the same thing as getting like, we got Ultraman, we got Johnny Sokko and his flying part of the Space Giants. Just bring them to TV, kids will come. They like them. Right. They don't care if they're made in Japan. They're attracted.
Kind of makes it better sometimes.
Yeah,
right.
I agree, Matt.
So Bob got a little stonewalled. There's a whole nother long story about all this, but we'll try to keep this all focused on Godzilla. But so Bob asked me, he goes, look, I'm having kind of trouble. Do you know any shows, any other shows I could get for the program in the immediate period? Because I think they were at the point they had just ran the first 3 Flash Gordon serials back to back.
Right.
And the reason why
I watched
they were getting the Space Giants was supposed to open the show. And the distributor didn't send the films to Channel 2.
No.
So Channel 2, so that the Flash Gordon thing was a last ditch. That was a Hail Mary.
Wow.
That was a Hail Mary move by Bob. But anyway, they finally got so they blocked it out. They showed the 3 serials, and then Space Giant starts the following Monday or whatever. They worked it out very closely.
Yeah.
So I came on the show to talk about the Space Giants, and Bob said, okay, here's the dilemma. I'm having trouble finding Japanese content or any good television content to put on the show. I've been stonewalled by all these other people. I didn't think it was going to be this hard. And so I said, me having this stupid brain that is filled with useless knowledge that I memorize instead of important things like economics, mathematics, or that. What I remembered is from being a goofy kid who a San Franciscan kid,
right?
That thumbed through Variety. Just to find that one lone Jap. There's a Godzilla ad in Variety. Or there's a Kamen Rider ad. So wow. And from watching all these shows, as a kid growing up, I memorized who the distributors were. So so Bob goes, "Well, can you write a list of anything?" I go, "Yeah, I totally can." So I went Ultraman, United Artists, Johnny Sokko and His Flying Robot, American International Television. And then I did ITC, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, all that.
There we go.
And Bob Wilkins got Captain Scarlet.
I remember. Yes.
Yeah. So I was kind of happy that he got Scarlet, because Scarlet had been originally, I believe, that was shown on Channel 36 out of San Jose, California. And I didn't get to see that as a kid. It was on, I think it aired in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area in 68, 69. But I was either too young or wasn't, it just said, I looked up the old TV listings. It just Captain Scarlet. I probably went, that's some stupid pirate thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I kind of retroactively learned about all these ITC shows, besides the ones that I loved, like Thunderbirds when I was a kid, and UFO, and Space 1999, which were the three main ones I knew of. But then the Japanese started putting out all these books, these incredible books.
Oh yeah, because they loved Jerry Anderson.
They loved Jerry Anderson. Yeah.
So that's how how Captain Scarlet came back to the San Francisco Bay Area, and that is, besides, it's my favorite supermarionation.
I agree.
And then UFO is my favorite Jerry Anderson show.
Yeah,
me too.
Yep.
Me too.
The thing that I loved about Captain Scarlet, I love all the shows to a greater or lesser extent, but Captain Scarlet, it was almost a live action show. They finally got the proportions of the marionettes right. And the action was just unparalleled, amazing. And all the, the vehicles and everything, and the outfits. I would wear that right now to go to the store. Beautiful. What a beautiful show.
Colonel White, we're going to Cloud Base. I'm Cary Grant.
Really.
Those puppets are all great. Those are really nice. But this is about Godzilla.
True.
Yes.
And I want to give this monster his due. There were a lot of people who weren't fans of the legendary Godzilla, but the one thing I can say is, hey, give them credit for, here's this iconic figure that is, hey, we're dressing him up a little bit, we're doing something new with this guy. And we've had discussions about how some of the guys don't like it or whatever, they like the design of Godzilla, but still, you come out with another one, they come out with another one, and then they do the Kong version, and then now you have the Kong and Godzilla, and they're bright, they're colorful, maybe not the greatest human story, but still they put a lot of money.
The interest, though, at least when it came to Western audiences. I think.
It's kind of and it makes me happy, even though I know Sean and I, we've got into it like, oh, these people are crazy, they're stupid in this movie, but I think it's so great that still this big studio, they're coming out with another Godzilla film. And that just makes me so happy.
I like the fact that it's a testament to the character of Godzilla that it's now being made into these big movies across different countries. I mean, America has taken it, and done their own thing with it, which they don't really know what to do with it, in my opinion. But the fact that they're keeping the IP alive, they're keeping, everybody knows Godzilla, whether they know it from the legendary films or the Toho films.
Sean, wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree, just really quick, James, that when we were kids growing up, we saw these Godzilla films, and if you liked them, maybe you were teased, oh, that's so stupid or whatever. And I always wanted Godzilla to be taken seriously. I always thought, Godzilla can be a badass. Godzilla can be mean. Godzilla can be tough. Godzilla can be threatening and scary and horrifying.
Right.
I would argue that most of the ones that were designed for kids even take Godzilla seriously within their own universe, within their own.
True.
And that's how I did.
Yeah, it's always been consistent within the movie that they're doing. And so that's why I think that there's always solid performances by the actors, and every one of them looks gorgeous. Somebody obviously cared about these movies. And you can't always say that about all the kind of monster science fiction fare that came out of this country around that time.
Mm-hmm. True.
No, for sure. Yeah. The legendary movies are also, they're big American movies, and kids are drawn to the name, even if really young kids may not even completely understand what Godzilla is.
Right.
And then they get sucked in and want to find out more about it and maybe watch the old Japanese movies.
Right.
And that will make them Godzilla fans. So it's turning, we may hate the Phantom Menace, but say what you will, there's a lot of kids who grew up and that was their first Star Wars movie. And
that's true. Yes.
It turned them on to the franchise,
Yeah,
that's true.
Am I wrong, August, that you weren't a big fan of Shin Godzilla, right?
Not really. And that was people, fandom is interesting. Fandom opinions are interesting, and people in fandom think someone else thinks or misquotes what someone said is also extremely interesting. So I've been accused of hating. Vehemently.
I did not hear that. No.
Hating Shin Godzilla,
set the record straight.
Set the record straight.
Well, interestingly enough, I got my first experience seeing it was I got a screener before it was released in theaters. Before it was released in theaters, one of the PR companies I want to send you. They were sending screeners to everybody. I wasn't special, but anybody who was doing. you can have mine. So I popped it in. I watched it. I paid rapt attention to it. And just went. Huh.
Right.
Okay. And then what I ended up doing is I watched it again, and then I watched it a third time, and then it played in theaters, and I went and saw it 3 times in the theater.
Wow.
Because I go, well, I'm watching it on a 40 or 50-inch television. It's still not the same experience of seeing it in a theater.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe that'll be different. The movie just didn't connect with me for some reason. I have no reason why. I gave it 8 tries. 8 tries to connect.
That's fair.
With me.
Yeah.
Now, conversely, I saw Final Wars at the world premiere at Grauman's.
I was there too.
Yeah, and from the opening scene, I was looking through my fingers because I had seen all of the previous films in the theater, all the Millennium movies, and I think the most recent one was what was it, Tokyo SOS?
Oh, right, yeah.
The one with Mothra in it, right?
Yeah.
And those look like, I think I saw that at one of the film it's the film sales convention that happens in Santa Monica.
Yeah,
the one that happens in Santa Monica.
Right. Okay.
So we got invited to see that, and it looked fine. All the effects looked fine. There was nothing where I cringed. It was everything I expected. Guys in suits, miniatures, and some judicious use of CGI that Toho was capable of at that time, and it was fine. And then when I saw Final Wars, that opening scene was so completely backwards from what they had achieved in all the films up to that point. And the director even said that he purposely told the effects crew to make it look as bad as the 70s movies. Quote unquote.
Was it did he use the word bad?
I don't know if he said bad, but he wanted to have the aesthetic of, you can see the wires.
Yes, I thought it was,
everything looks like models.
Yeah.
because he also said, and I think it was interviewed by Giant Robot Magazine, great magazine out of Southern California.
Oh yeah, right. No, great, great magazine.
Eric Nakamura and the guys.
Yeah.
So they interviewed this guy, this director, which I created a meme of him with a photo of him that says "Wanted for Crimes Against Godzilla." But he said in this magazine that Godzilla movies, except the first one, are all trash.
Really? How did this guy get hired to direct a Godzilla?
I know.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
you know, it's like he had one hit film for Toho prior to this, and then that's why they gave him the job. He worked on a film called Azumi, which I loved. It was based on a manga about a ninja girl, right? And it was really neat. He did a lot of camera tricks like he did in his zombie movie Versus, you know, but with a much bigger Toho. Gave a really
Versus,
big budget.
right. Yeah.
Right. So Toho gave this guy a really big budget to work with on this film Azumi. And then they said, oh, we'll just let you do the 50th anniversary Godzilla film. And he doesn't like Godzilla movies.
Wow, that's weird.
Imagine.
In this interview, he also, now he had aligned himself because of all of the buzz he was getting at film festivals, that Tarantino and Rodriguez like tapped him to come join them. Because when this was during the period where Rodriguez and Tarantino wanted to do a series of grindhouse movies,
right?
Not just the one shot,
right?
2-part,
like all under the umbrella of grindhouse, right?
Yeah,
right. And so they wanted to bring this guy in, right? And then I think Tarantino read his interview where he said all Japanese films are trash. I'm a fan of Australian movies. I don't like Japanese movies except Kurosawa.
Wow.
And I think he only said Kurosawa because you have to say yes.
You have to say Kurosawa.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this guy was more into Western films. And then after that, you'd never heard anything about Tarantino and Rodriguez.
Right. Yeah.
And the next thing you know, he's making horror films that are going in Hollywood. He's making horror films that are going straight to cable, like, you know, like was the Midnight Meat Train.
No, terrible, horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he directed, and that was with a rising star, an actor that became big after that movie, Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper, right?
Yeah.
I was trying to think of it. Yeah.
So, but then you know this guy, like, you know, this guy kind of like, I mean, I cringed during Final Wars, and I just couldn't.
I have to see that again.
Yeah,
well, Sean, didn't you come with me to that screening? Weren't you with me?
I think I was. Yeah, that may have been the last time I've seen it. I mean, I have it on
funny
Blu-ray,
thing, August, it was at the Grauman's Chinese Theater. And I remember I got so lucky to get these tickets that I call up Sean and I go, Sean, I got these tickets. So Sean came down. And the funny thing was, I was so excited to see this Godzilla movie, and it was playing at the Grauman's Chinese Theater. At the end of the film, what was funny was the director was walking up the aisle. I happened to have a black Sharpie, and they'd given everyone this cardboard flyer of Godzilla. And as he started to walk by me, I held it out to him and he signed it. And I was like so excited. I got the director. Now it's like, oh, now he's a nobody now. Now everyone hates the guy.
Well, you know, I mean, but okay, so then you cut to Shin Godzilla. And one of the things that, like, first of all, my question for you, August, is if it had not been a Godzilla movie, if it had been sort of a kaiju that they created, do you think you would have liked the movie more?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting premise. I know what they were basing it on. Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, who co-directed the film, and Anno wrote the screenplay. They're obsessed with these like late 1960s, early 70s Japanese sort of semi-documentarian dramas about the end of World War II. One of them is The Battle of Okinawa, which is a really grim movie. And another one is Japan's Longest Day, which stars Toshiro Mifune, which is about the day of the surrender and the coup to stop the surrender from happening.
Wow.
And it's a very long movie. It's a very intense movie. But in that film and a couple other films, like I mentioned, Battle of Okinawa, especially Japan's Longest with emulating. Every time there were so many characters, because it's a historical film, there's so many characters that appear in the film that they all get it on. They don't get an explanation of who they are narratively. They all get their name on the screen and who they were, like Minister of Defense, so such and such guy or whatever. And
which is like they did in Shin Godzilla, right?
Sure,
right. Kind of like, yeah.
But see, August, the thing that I love so much about it is it was so unlike any of the other Godzilla films. And I always thought to myself, what if the giant monster did show up in your town? What about all the red tape? Wait, you can't just have the military come. You know, who do you talk to? There's all of that stuff. Right. Okay, I have a clear shot. Can I fire? You know, the guy who's at the machine gun has to ask permission. That has to go up a chain. Yes, you can fire. Okay, I'm going to fire. And then, wait, I got people there. And then you have someone above you saying, no, shoot. Right. And then someone else says, no. I mean, that stuff was just great.
For me, watching it, as Larry said, it was so different. Right. And I thought it was because I'd seen so many of the Godzilla films of the past that this was interesting because it was a new take. And it was, as you were saying, Larry, the effects, the real life effects of what would happen if there was a Godzilla that attacked. And I kind of likened it to, not that it's in any way in the same league as this movie, but almost like a Doctor Strangelove take where, none of those characters you really knew either, but it was like these series of vignettes unfolding this bigger situation. And, and it was one of those movies that, I've seen a bunch of times, but you know, you're not the only one, by the way, who have said that they watched it and then they watched it again and then they watched it again.
Yeah, it's. I think, Matt, we've said many times, it is kind of like a movie as if Stanley Kubrick directed a Godzilla film in a lot of ways, because it has this
coldness.
There's a distance to everything, almost like a mocking, looking down on this. It's like a
satirical.
Weird. Yeah, and that's not for everybody, and I get it. But I did find it fascinating, and I think the way they presented Godzilla in such a different way, and the different stages of him, I thought was fascinating too. Right. But I get it though. It's a polarizing movie though for a lot of people.
James, what did you think about that film? Because I forget.
No, I wanted to love it, and I've seen it a few times, and okay. Yeah, well, I mean, the points are made, but then what? You know, technically, it's one of the best for sure, and I admire it for what he tried to do, but it still kind of leaves me cold. You know, at the end of the day, it's just like, all right, you have all of these points made. And yes, it is realistic and does make a commentary on the bureaucracy, the red tape, and, you know, and also the post Fukushima, you know, consciousness too.
Yes, right.
That's part of it too. But given all of that, I still can't love it. I don't know what it is. I can't love Strangelove either. I'm not that big of a Kubrick fan. So
can you believe it, Matt? You and I are on the same page. Can you believe that?
Every once in a while, the moons line up, and just like in 2001, which is another Kubrick movie. But anyway, look, it's one of those movies that I can see. I mean, as I was watching it, I was thinking this is not going to be for everybody.
Yeah, so but it was a hit though too, right? But it was a hit.
That's another thing that's really fascinating about is that how big it was in Japan. And August, do you have any opinion about what made it so big?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing was, just the parody of Japanese bureaucracy really resonated with Japanese audiences. It's something that Americans, it has to be explained to, although we have our own, we poke our own fun at our bureaucracy, but there's subtleties that the Japanese are going to get in that film that the outside observer might miss. Right. So that's why it really resonated with audiences. It also crossed over to a lot of mainstream audiences in Japan that normally wouldn't go to a Godzilla movie.
Right.
And part of that was the whole point, which I thought was, kind of flogging a dead horse in that movie, was Japan can pull itself up by its own bootstraps.
Right.
And we can do it ourselves. We don't need those darn Americans telling us what to do and pushing us around anymore. And I think that elicited, a response out of Japanese audiences, which some people overseas, including the United States, saw as the Japanese being nationalistic, which it not really is, not really, it really isn't, but whatever. But I think the same points the same points that film tried to convey as clumsily as they did, I think, in Shin Godzilla, was done brilliantly in -1.
Oh,
well,
perfect
A
segue.
lot of the same
Perfect.
themes, right? But like a different approach, but still some of the same themes. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So
Anti-war, and plus you don't have to deal with any bad American
Well,
guys
right.
that they pulled off the street, putting them in a really important part, and then have a Japanese actress pretend like she was born and raised in America.
I'll give you that one.
With the worst.
August, before you go any further, I just want to say to listeners, now just really quickly, we may say some spoilers here, but I think it's fair to say that it's an amazing Godzilla film, and you should go out and see it.
Yes.
But the spoiler is that there's some bad American accent.
Well, that's in Shin Godzilla, yeah.
So the girl, the woman,
that's no good.
That really pulled me out too. That was it. Why can't, after all these years, can they? Where's Nick Adams when you need him?
Right.
Always, right?
I said that every day.
But she was almost as embarrassing as the pimp in Final Wars.
Oh God. Yeah.
Okay. But let's go to -1 now.
Godzilla, but I just want to get this one joke in about her accent.
Okay, go ahead, August.
Her accent trying to play an American was, invoked Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Perfect.
Well, I was really excited though when Godzilla -1 had just like a little teaser. I was so excited. And I figured, it's a foreign film. It's only going to play here for such a short time.
Yeah.
It was only scheduled to be here a week. And then it's been extended. It's extended and extended because people are blown away by this film. And I think someone
$15 million. Am I
how much
wrong?
the film cost to make. And it's interesting. I think Sean said this. Every time we see a Godzilla film, it's about Godzilla. And this film isn't necessarily about Godzilla, but Godzilla is a force in the film.
Yeah, it's a human story that happens to have Godzilla in it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other way around, which is how the legendary films are. That's like, let's make a Godzilla film, and we'll have some various ensemble of completely forgettable human characters that just look amazingly up at Godzilla and run from him. But that's it. That's
horrible comedy.
So, it's like this is like a real gut wrenching, well acted, well written human story.
Mm-hmm.
There's this outward force, this terrifying force of Godzilla that comes into play, and it works beautifully.
The one thing I would say too is that it's a movie that when I came out of it, I felt like, if they had not included Godzilla at all, this would be a nice little drama, So, I mean, that says a lot. And also the themes for a Japanese movie too, to be tackling those themes. I'm not exactly sure what the zeitgeist of Japan is right now when it comes to kamikazes and that sort of thing. But I thought that was kind of a ballsy move to make it about that and to make it a period piece too.
Yeah, the whole idea of like Koichi, the idea that like, I'm not supposed to be alive. I somehow that's so it really hits you. And coming after the war, and then Noriko was great. The relationship was really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because a lot of times, even in the Japanese Godzilla films, the Showa era, you have these human characters and they're kind of quirky, but they're not super memorable. A lot of times you don't
except for Nick Adams.
The American guest stars, yes.
It really depends on the particular film. I mean, let's say the original Godzilla, all those characters are memorable. Obviously,
absolutely.
And then you get to Godzilla raids again. Maybe not. Maybe the one or two characters, and then you get to like King Kong versus Godzilla, the two guys that were playing off each other, the two main characters. Who were a comedy duo in Japan too.
Right.
And you have these things when you get towards, like the 70s films, even something like Godzilla versus Megalon, the characters are memorable. It's like, there's two guys and his little brother. But I mean, when we really get into like for example, who made that movie? Emmerich, Roland and Emmerich.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
1998. Yeah.
Yeah. None of those characters are really memorable.
And everything was like a joke.
They're not even made to be. I think they're just made to be a joke. Yeah. But that's why, like in Godzilla -1, you had this handful of characters, right? And everybody sticks out, but everybody's memorable. Like there's nice, subtle little relationship touches that really hit.
And Sean, not only does it play on that emotion, but I'm sure you guys caught throughout the film, there's mention of when you have these regular working guys, whether it's the soldier or the mechanic, our government doesn't always tell us everything. There's issues with their own government. We all bitch about our own government, but to see that really surprised me. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to have the main character be, I don't even want to say flawed, but complex. And
troubled
person, it's so fresh and so I mean, it grips you right from the beginning. Yeah. And I just can't say enough nice things about this movie. And I hope it's extended again and again and again. Yeah. And more people get to see it.
Just the design and the look of Godzilla with the scales and stuff. Yeah. He's a very scary looking Godzilla. Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a sequence that I've never seen before in any Godzilla film about when he's about to do this atomic breath thing, which builds and builds, and it was surprised me.
Yeah,
and
that was cool.
You remember the spines, but also guys, and August, I'll ask you. There's a certain moment in this film. So here's a film that came out in 2023, but when they play some music from older Godzilla. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I nearly started weeping. It was so great.
The timing was perfect.
Yes, Matt, the timing was perfect.
And also good use, sparing use of the big spectacle CGI sequences. Like they dished it out just enough, which just again, which legendary films never get right. They just it becomes a video game.
It was
never like that in this movie. It was
these filmmakers cared.
Yeah.
They cared, and you can tell.
Well, I think the key to the success of the old Godzilla tracks in -1 versus the use in Shin Godzilla is in Shin Godzilla, and I'm not just trying to pick on it, but there are two recent examples, right? So they're right against each other. They're two sequential movies that use Ifukube music. Shin Godzilla, they just used the actual tracks recorded in '54, which was jarring with the music that Shiro Sagisu, the score he wrote, was jarring. With the new film, Naoki Sato's soundtrack or score for -1, he actually recorded Ifukube's music. So those cues in there they didn't pull library cues.
Right.
Yeah.
He recorded them specifically for the soundtrack with the instrumentation he was using for the film itself.
Right. So it merges nicely. It's like one whole.
It wasn't as jarring,
Right. Okay.
A low fidelity track with a high fidelity
digital
track.
And again, I mean, Shin Godzilla is, I think, for me, it's hard to compare them because I feel like they're two entirely different movies. But I would absolutely say that Godzilla -1 is certainly a much more elegant movie and a better directed movie as a piece.
And more accessible, I think.
Yeah, and more accessible and has, without a doubt, way more emotional depth. But that's not what Shin Godzilla was going for. So I don't want to I don't want to pick on it either. You know, but
you guys say accessible. Wouldn't you guys say, like, if you were a Star Trek fan, Star Trek 4 was like, that was a film for like non-Star Trek fans. If there are people out there, who are not really Godzilla fans, like I took my daughter, my wife, to see it. Of course, my daughter was just blown away, but my wife goes, "Oh my God, it wasn't what they expected." I would say that this film, there's enough in there for people who are even not a Godzilla fan.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's why it's gotten such a big response, because people are telling, word of mouth, people are telling other people as well. But The key here is Yamazaki is the first director of a Godzilla film anywhere in the world that is a multi-Japanese Academy Prize, basically Japanese Oscar-winning director.
Yeah, he's done all kinds of like stuff. Right.
Yeah, and he has specialized a lot of his. He started off with science fiction films. His first film in 2000 was a thing called Juvenile, which is sort of like the Transformers meets E.T. It's a really wonderful, sweet kids movie with robots. And then he did a science fiction film called Returner, which has got some.
I know that one.
It's got a little. Yes. Yeah, it's got a little. It's got a little Terminator, a little Matrix in it.
Right.
He was kind of accused of being too derivative, but it was very interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the film, and it had a limited theatrical run in the United States in about, I think it was like 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. And then Yamazaki got his first Academy Awards for doing recreations of Tokyo in period settings. There was a series, he did 3 films called Always, Sunset on 3rd Street, which were based on a manga. And the first film is set like roughly in 1958. The manga author's sort of a semi-autobiographical story of his youth. And in it has like the old neighborhood around where Tokyo Tower was being built as it was being built. And he had to recreate all of that because none of that Tokyo exists anymore.
Right.
So just like he had to recreate Ginza in this movie, he had to recreate this for an entire film where there was all city settings, and it's beautifully done. His own company that he works for, that he started working for, called Shirogumi, they did the best sequence in Shin Godzilla. It was farmed out to about 10 different CG or VFX companies. Shin was. Unfortunately, there's a whole background on Shin Godzilla, what happened. They were going to do a bunch of practical effects work, and then they decided to junk it, and they were behind schedule. So they farmed out the VFX to a whole bunch of people. That's why it's inconsistent. But the best sequence in the film is the tank sequence. When Godzilla crosses the bridge and the tanks attack him.
Yeah.
Okay, that sequence is fantastic. I can rewatch that. Now, with no guilt, with no remorse. The interesting thing is, what I didn't know, I saw a VFX breakdown for that entire scene later, after I watched the film several times. Even the tanks are CG. I was like, what?
Wow.
I mean, I thought they got some tanks on maneuvers, and none of it was real. None of it was real. That's all Yamazaki.
That's the thing too about Godzilla Minus One, is that you had this period setting, but it's not in your face. It's not like, ooh, look, we've recreated this period time. Like it's just kind of, it's almost subliminal. You just, there it is.
It's just so matter of fact. Like,
it's not too beautiful. It's not.
Yes.
Because that's the thing that always gets me about every American
listen, Legendary.
movie.
Legendary to what we're saying. It's not too right.
And the interesting thing about Yamazaki as well in his filmography is more recently, a few years ago, he did a movie called The Eternal Zero about kamikaze pilots. He did a whole movie about kamikaze. And then in 2019, there's a film of his that's available for streaming in the United States on Tubi, on YouTube Movies, on Sling, and maybe somewhere else. I highly recommend. Here's your homework.
Okay.
Since you all loved Minus One,
okay,
you're gonna like this movie. It's called The War of Archimedes, the Great War of Archimedes. The Great War of Archimedes is another period piece. It starts off in the late 30s. They're going even further back, and it's about the creation. It's a completely fictional story based on a novel about the creation of the Japanese battleship Yamato.
Okay.
And it's about military political infighting, trying to get this ship built, and the people that were against it. And then they bring in a once in 100-year brilliant young mathematician to help them solve their problem. It's way more complex than that. It also stars the same actress who played Noriko in Minus One.
Okay.
She's in several of Yamazaki's movies. And she's in it. And I just watched it again the other night on Tubi. This is not a promotional endorsement. And I was just like, I think at 2 a.m. I was just going, I could go to bed or I can watch a movie. And then I went, maybe I should watch the War of Archimedes again. And then I watched it and I was just like, wow. It's just,
wow.
It's everything about the politics. It is everything about these characters. As again, it's an ensemble. There's an ensemble in it. There's all these characters in it. It's all about the characters. It's not about it. Spoiler, it opens up with a battle scene, but the rest of the movie is about these characters and this conflict of military political infighting.
Sounds great.
Yeah. It sounds like it would be boring, but the writing is crackerjack. The dialogue is great. It's and then you really get carried, like with -1. This director has the touch, man. He's able to suck you in and keep you interested for the length of the movie.
Yeah, he really does.
He's good with human actors and human characters. I'm actually a big fan of the Always on Sunset trilogy.
Oh yeah.
And we should mention that in the second film, it opens with Godzilla showing up.
Yeah. So for those who haven't seen it, there's a dream sequence. It opens up with the old Toho scope logo, and then that fades into a similarly shaped logo on the face of a radio plate, and the camera pulls out. This is emergency broadcast. There's a giant monster attacking Tokyo, and it's the first couple of minutes of the movie. Yamazaki's Godzilla design, you can see his -1, the evolution, starting. And this film was produced in 2007. It predates the legendary movie by 7 years.
Wow. Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. So you could see the genesis of that design because it doesn't have all the same detail on it. I'm sure because it was just a dream sequence. It wasn't a lot of money he didn't want to blow the whole budget on that.
Right.
But then a few years later, just a few years ago, he was commissioned to do an amusement park attraction, Godzilla the Ride.
Oh, wow.
And then he further developed his Godzilla design for Godzilla the Ride. They said it could be your own Godzilla. And so then he took that and then developed it into and added to it to become the -1 Godzilla. So you can see this evolution of Yamazaki's Godzilla from 2007 to 2023.
Wow.
Is that ride still around? Does that still exist?
What, the ride?
Yeah.
The ride.
Yeah, it's a very popular attraction. Now they're going to be doing Ultraman the Ride.
Oh my God. We gotta go on both rides.
Where is this? Where is this park? Where is this attraction?
I'm drawing a blank right now.
Is it one of those parks that's near like the base of Mount Fuji, like one of those places? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. There's like the Fuji Green Park.
Right.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
As long as they haven't shut it down, we can find it.
Oh, we'll find it.
Right.
We found we made a pilgrimage to the Godzilla slide in the middle of the rain.
Right.
So we're hardcore.
See, that's dedication.
Yes.
when we started this episode, we were talking about how it is a great time to be a Godzilla fan. You have, the series on Apple with the Monarch. You have coming up. You have Godzilla times Kong.
I think it's in April.
It's called Godzilla versus Kong, the New Empire.
Godzilla X Kong.
Godzilla X Kong. And I know Sean's probably not excited about it, but with -1 and these other Godzilla projects, it's like there's so much Godzilla. NECA's remaking all these Godzilla toys. I mean, it's it is. If you are a Godzilla fan, there's something to watch wherever you look. And I just got into. I think Sean too. You watched 4 episodes of Monarch?
Yeah. Monarch. We've been watching it. It's. I think Matt, you said it very correctly. I think in that. I think Monarch has its issues, but there's a lot of interesting stuff in it, and they do a better.
It's good.
Tonally, like you said, they do a better job tonally with the whole kaiju monsterverse than the theatrical legendary movies have been doing. Because they're at least more interesting. There is a lot of padding, I think, in the Monarch stuff, but all the stuff with
some annoying characters.
But all the stuff with Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell playing him as a young age, I think is really interesting. I just hope it goes somewhere. We are watching it. Yeah, the legendary films, even like the last Godzilla versus Kong, I gave a lot of slack to because I just liked seeing that spectacle of them fighting. But as far as the human characters, they were completely forgettable. I can't think of one human character or their name from the film. But the trailer for the new Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, looks horrendous. And you have a cute baby Kong in it. You have a shot where Godzilla and Kong are like running like superheroes side by side, which looks terrible.
It's like Tank.
Kong has like a big
and it's ridiculous.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, it looks terrible. It's like I just
like Tango and Cash. It's like Tango and Cash.
Yeah, that's what it is.
If you like Turner and Hooch, you'll love.
The legendary. They don't have a clue as far as what it is that we like about Godzilla. Instead, they try to make it like every other big spectacle genre event movie. It's like they don't even know what Godzilla is.
They can't help it. The only reference material they had was the Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
I'd rather see that. I think than it's just. Again, I'm glad. Like any great character, like look at Batman. Look how many ways Batman has been interpreted, from super serious to campy and everything in between. And Godzilla is the same way. And you have all these different companies, these different countries doing their own interpretation of Godzilla, and that's great. With all the legendary stuff happening, this Godzilla -1 comes out, and just like wow, at least somebody still knows how to make a Godzilla.
After Godzilla -1. I want them to make a super, really serious version of Godzuki. I want to see,
like dark,
Godzuki movie.
Indestructible.
It's going to be made by A24. A24 and Blumhouse. I have three things. All right.
Okay.
So the director of the upcoming new Empire said that due to fans' demands, there's going to be a scene of fighting that lasts 4 minutes without human characters in it. Like 4 minutes straight battle, no humans. The other thing was the amusement park, Godzilla the Ride. It's the Cebu N amusement park. The ride opened in 2021, so it's still going. And the third thing is -1 is going to be released again in Japan in black and white.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
Interesting. That could be cool. That I could see. I'd rather see that than taking a classic black and white movie and making it colorized.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
or like they did with Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, and Yamazaki said that this isn't just, they're not just running a filter on this. He told his team they spent a lot of time working on this black and white version, which is being called -1/C, meaning color. -1 color.
Interesting.
They've been working on it for months and months and months. And what they're doing is they went back to all the digital separations. And they're adjusting it for texture. They're adjusting it for tone. Yeah. And he said, my ethic for this was to make it look like it was shot by one of the great black and white cinematographers.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Okay.
So
he said, see it again.
Yeah. Yep. He said, not only is it bringing out more detail in certain scenes, background textures and whatnot, but this Godzilla is going to almost look like you're watching a documentary when Godzilla is on screen.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
That's cool.
In Godzilla -1, I was so impressed with the destruction CGI and how clean it was, and how, but clean in the, not that it's sanitized, but actually looks realistic.
Without looking like a video game. Which is like, right.
And the interesting thing about the budget, like everybody's been throwing around 15 million for a while, right?
Yeah.
And Yamazaki responded to that. He actually goes on Twitter. He responded to something I posted on Facebook, and I went, "What?"
Wow.
He goes, "I'm glad that everybody is enjoying our Godzilla movie." I was like, "Oh my god!" But he said on Twitter, he goes, $15 million. I wish I had that much money.
No.
Wow.
Gareth Edwards met with Yamazaki when he was in Japan promoting The Creator, and they ran -1 for him. This is a couple months back before they released in Japan. And Gareth Edwards jokingly said to him, he goes, "Number one, I'm jealous of what you made."
Yeah.
He told Yamazaki. Number two, he said, "What was your budget on that? 100 million?"
Wow.
So Gareth Edwards was very impressed by what, and, of course, obviously that poor guy had his hands tied on that film,
Sure.
and then he really had his hands tied on Rogue One. Which, whatever. I mean, Rogue One's still good.
I like Rogue One a lot, actually. I like Rogue One more every time I see it, actually.
Yeah, I wish we could have seen the film that Gareth Edwards made instead of, sort of like the corporate restructuring of that.
Right,
film,
right. But don't you feel, August, that like that's what all these legendary films are? There's so many things that they have to attend to and have to so many points to hit that it becomes this amalgamation. It just becomes this franchise amalgamation of it's like they just make movies that are just have a lot of really cool stuff to show in a promo.
Yeah,
like that's all they are. It's like there's no
sizzle reel.
And it's 2-hour sizzle reels.
Make a half-hour version with no human characters, and I'm in.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
I'm kind of appalled online sometimes when I see some fans of the legendary films say things like, "Look, I don't care about any of the human characters." Well, obviously nobody, not even the filmmakers, care about them. But they go, I would go and pay to see 2 hours of just monsters fighting and breaking shit. And I have to say, wow, are we really? I mean,
but that's like some of that stuff. Like I said, the Godzilla versus Kong, the stuff in Hong Kong, I thought was really cool when fighting Mecha Godzilla. That's great. I mean, I like that. But 2 hours of it, no. I mean, like you said, if you get like a nice 20-minute action sequence, cool.
No,
but you can't just have that.
Give me the length of a Super 8 Castle film. That's what I'm looking for.
This also ties into something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because Minus One is certainly one of the best Godzilla films, maybe the best. But then when you start to think back on the entire franchise, I mean, it's gone through so many. I mean, you had rubber suits with zippers and these little miniature buildings and toy tanks. And if it's not going to be suitmation anymore, and now it's all CGI, which it is, then what's the appeal? Well, the appeal is how they treat the CGI based on the scale of the monster. And Minus One, he's bigger than ever before. And the destruction and the way that the destruction is handled is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And that's one reason, among many others, to see the film. But that's the drawing card.
Yeah.
Right.
Along with the human drama that pulls you in, it's like, oh my God, look at the scale and the destruction and what that can do.
Right.
That's the ticket now and moving forward. And the first movie that I can remember that had that impact on me was GMK. The way that that director handled that.
But like puts you there in that space, really. Yeah.
But
scary.
I guess you guys we can all agree that after 70 years, it seems like there's no slowing down Godzilla.
No. And especially the interesting thing with what Legendary is doing too is Godzilla's like 300 plus feet tall, exceeding 400 feet tall. Yamazaki scaled him back to the original 1950 size. So he's 50 meters tall. So that's 167 feet.
Right.
Because the buildings in Tokyo at that time, there was a comedian, there's a Japanese comedian who's a Godzilla fan. He does what the traditional Japanese comedy, which is rakugo, which is a guy that wears traditional garb, sits on a stage with on a pillow, sits on a mat with his legs folded on a mat, and he tells funny things. He would do every once in a while. He did Godzilla jokes. He did this one routine back in the 80s where he was wearing a Godzilla head while he did his performance, and he was saying, so like, if Godzilla came back now, this is right before they came out with Return of Godzilla in '84. He goes, if Godzilla came out now, the way Tokyo is changing, the buildings are so tall, here comes Godzilla, and he's imitating Godzilla, and then he looks around, and he goes, where the hell am I? Because he wouldn't be able to see over the buildings.
Right, he's dwarfed. Right,
and that was the first time Toho enlarged the scale of Godzilla to 80 meters tall. So he wasn't dwarfed by all the new taller buildings.
Right.
And then in, I think, like Shin Godzilla, he was extra
Huge,
super
yeah.
ridiculous size,
Yeah.
It was sort of like that joke at the beginning of How I Married an Axe Murderer. I'm sorry, I ordered the large cappuccino. He's holding this cup that's about a foot across.
It's funny you brought up something, and it was something I noticed in this film too. It wasn't so much Godzilla's size, but it was how he moved. Do you remember how he would do the one step and then take it and then do the second step? And it was so great. And I can't say enough great stuff about this film. And for listeners, if you haven't seen it, you got to go out and check it out before it leaves the theaters, because seeing it in theater is the way to go.
Yes.
The movement too. The fact that you were talking about the movement of Godzilla, which made me not long ago I watched the Light and Magic documentary.
Oh yes,
which was great.
Yes,
and they're
great.
And they went through the whole thing about Jurassic Park and getting the movement right. And you needed Phil Tippett, who was sort of the dinosaur wrangler, to actually, he was this expert on animal movement to make all those movements seem organic and real. And that's really what I got out of -1, is that this thing moves and feels like what I would think a giant monster would.
Right. He's not sprinting like Captain America. Legendary.
Yeah, right.
And in the
wind blowing through his non-existent hair.
Yeah. And there's in the sea, which you don't see that often in Godzilla films.
Right. And here's a key thing that Yamazaki was able to do, which I don't think a lot of people know, is that the way he likes to produce his films, since he's also the head VFX artist. He wrote the film, he directed it, head VFX artist. When they sent out the first word of this film being produced was a casting call for extras. And it just said unnamed giant monster movie. And everybody, of course, I wonder who that's going to be.
Yeah, right.
They're going to bring back Gorgo. No, but anyway, so
hey, is it going to be a new Gappa film?
Maybe, just maybe. And so there was an announcement of that. They said it was going to be set in 40s, so they were going to be providing 1940s era costumes. And he did all the principal, right? Did all the principal in early 2022. And he spent the whole next year and a half doing the VFX.
No way.
Wow, really?
So it was the amount of time because here's the thing, what always works against all filmmakers doing studio films everywhere throughout time is time and money.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And especially with Toho's films, it's always been a matter of really money and time as well. I mean, some of the films that they accomplished, and things that Eiji Tsuburaya was able, and Honda were able to do, like, it's a miracle that a film like, okay, let's pick something like Atragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a very memorable film.
Good movie.
It was super popular in Japan. That was put into rush production, and they shot the entire film within a month.
Wow.
Live action and effects.
Because that's a big spectacle movie.
Tsuburaya had to break up his effects crew into 3 units.
Wow.
So they could all work simultaneously to get that film done. And then conversely, you go to 1973, Godzilla versus Megalon was shot in like 2 weeks. But the interesting thing with Megalon, if you see a really good print of Godzilla versus Megalon, I mean, I've been lucky to see a lot of these films, pristine prints in theaters, right? And I'll tell you, I saw Godzilla versus Gigan and Megalon back to back, right? And Megalon is beautifully shot.
It's true. Yes, August. I just watched that recently, like on Blu-ray. I've come to really enjoy that movie more and more. I mean, yes, there's always the stigma of Gigan and Megalon have that stock footage thing. Stock footage of actual monster fights, not just like But that hurts them. But the movies are fun though, and
Megalon is great. Megalon is a great suit.
Great monster. Great kaiju.
And Gigan, by the way. Gigan, one of my favorite kaiju.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have to tell you that they just ran it on Japanese cable. Godzilla versus Megalon in 4K.
Yeah. And you know what?
They just did a 4K, and they did Return of Godzilla, 1984, or Godzilla 1985 over here. But they just did 4Ks of both of those on television.
Nice.
That's great.
We
got to go.
Megalon's amazing looking. Oh, and you should mention In closing, I think we should mention that also this week we had a Godzilla passing.
Yes,
right.
we did.
Yeah.
We did.
So yeah, the actor Kenpachiro Satsuma, who was the Godzilla from 1984 through the 90s,
and
passed
Hedorah.
away.
He
and
he was
he played Hedorah. He played Gigan.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of tokusatsu television before that. He was one of the suit actors for the superhero Thunder Mask from 1972. He was also one of the suit actors for a show called Lion Maru.
Oh, I love that show.
All right, yeah.
I got to do a couple of panels with him
cool.
at G Fest in Hollywood in 2000, and we ran some clips. We ran some clips. We did a thing on tokusatsu. We broke it up. We did one like a Godzilla one. We did one thing with the tokusatsu television, and we were showing clips from these shows. And Satsuma's, we didn't tell him. We didn't have time to prep him, and he looks up at the screen. He goes, "Where'd you get those clips? How did you know that was me?" He was totally flabbergasted. Really great guy to work with, and I got to work with him again in 2014 at the big WoW comic show in San Jose, California.
Yeah,
cool. We had a whole bunch of other people, but Satsuma was a great guy. He loved his fans. He loved coming to the States, and he was a very unique, eccentric character. I mean, he was worked with Mifune Productions. He's in a lot of Toshiro Mifune movies as like a background samurai or actor. And he's in one of my favorite films, although I am still trying to find it where he's at in this film, which is a film called Incident at Blood Pass.
Ah, I know it very well.
Yeah, so like he's in that. He had his early name when he played Gigan and Hedorah. He was known as, his screen name was Kengo Nakayama. And then when he took on the role of Godzilla, he changed his name to Kenpachiro Satsuma. So a lot of Japanese actors will take on these stage names.
Interesting.
Their name sticks out to the public.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, August, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I mean,
thank you.
Great way to ring out the 2023.
Yeah, perfect.
Godzilla in
perfect.
August.
And August, I would love, I know Matt, maybe I'm speaking for Matt too, I would love to hang with you with cocktails to do a Godzilla night at, in San Francisco, man.
Let's get burritos.
Yeah.
That would be for the Mission District.
In the Mission,
burritos and booze.
I love
that
it.
would be great.
Yeah.
Well,
and do you have anything that you want to plug?
Well, you know what? I don't have anything right now, but I will tell people that I think, always trying to help fans get stuff, whatever way they can. The 4Ks that I was talking about earlier, all of those are available. Now they're all available from CD, like CD as in the disc, with the music, the little shiny thing, cdjapan.com, I think it is, or
I've ordered stuff from that site before. Yeah.
They have English language. So you go to their website, it's pretty much just all English language website based out of Japan. They're a retailer. Their shipping is fantastic. They pack everything great. They have all these films. The dollar-yen exchange rate is really good. Toe's not asking super outrageous prices. I think that the 4K Blu-ray versions are about 5,000 yen, which the current exchange rate works out to about $36.
Nice.
Not too bad.
Pretty good. And these discs, okay, I'm going to say more. These discs have some crazy special features that have never been seen before. One example, Godzilla, Mothra versus Godzilla 64. There is color 8mm behind the scenes footage of all the main cast doing the scene at the end of the film where they rescue the kids off the island.
Wow.
Where they go on the boat. So it's candid shots, candid footage of Akira Takarada and Yuriko Hoshi and Hiroshi Koizumi. And the films are shot by producer Tomoyuki Tanaka. It's his personal 8mm films. There's behind the scenes footage on the Hedorah disc. There's never before seen behind the scenes footage on the Destroy All Monsters disc. There are trailers. There are trailers, like early teaser trailers that have never been released on any home video format. The reason why that's important, they contain B camera, C camera, and footage.
Different angles.
Wow.
So there's an amazing plethora of extras, even though these things don't have subtitles. If you are a fan and you haven't memorized these movies by now, why do you need subtitles? You should know all the dialogue by now.
That's true.
But remember, there are always ways to sync your discs to subtitle files.
That's true. That's true.
I can't tell you where to find them and what to do, but you might want to use a search engine.
There you go.
Right.
But both CD Japan and Amazon Japan sell these discs overseas.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
August, thank you so much, sir. It was such a pleasure to have you guys.
Likewise.
What do you say we raise our glasses?
Yes.
And we toast to August Ragone and to Godzilla.
Time for a listener shout out.
Shout out.
Radioactive shout out.
Sean, I think you have a special holiday shout out for us.
I do. This shout out goes to our good friend and listener, Mark Rem.
Mark's the greatest.
Mark's great.
Yeah.
Mark surprised us by sending us all these awesome holiday themed action figures.
Yeah,
These action figures is called the Naughty or Nice collection, and they're like different bizarre kind of horror or sci-fi themed Santa Claus figures. And he sent each of us the Krampus Santa figure, which is awesome.
Which is the best one.
They're kind of like
the best one.
It's really cool. It's like they're kind of NECA style, like about maybe 7 inches or so.
Beautifully sculptured,
detailed. It's got like a little list,
Yeah, it comes with a list. Comes with a stocking that you can put coal in.
Yes, exactly.
And then a little dark present, like a black wrapped present.
Really cool. So Mark sent us each a figure of this, and he sent us also these cool little cards to come with it, kind of a Halloween 3 themed Halloween / Christmas cards. And I just want to read the inside of these cards.
He gave us all one, but just to give you a flavor, because we'll be here all night if we read them all.
Exactly.
But just to give you a flavor, he's going to read you his.
Right. So it goes, it's almost time. The clock is ticking. Have your smart device ready for the Monster Party podcast. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your mask. The clock is ticking. It's almost time. And he goes on to say, I just wanted to wish you and your loved ones a happy Halloween. As always, the Monster Party podcast brings much joy, laughter, and deep knowledge on fascinating topics. Warmest regards, Mark Rem. P.S. Here's a Krampus to keep you company. Thanks.
What a sweetheart.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Like the perfect Halloween / Christmas gift. It really is.
I love it. It's already up in the house. Yeah.
I love it when listeners give us gifts.
I love that too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't be shy.
Cool.
We're not like those other podcasts that go, oh, you don't have to send us anything. No. We're children.
That's true.
We're spoiled children who want more.
Yeah,
and we're not picky. We're not going to post lists on Facebook or anything like that. Just use your imagination.
Hey, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Make a list.
Yeah. But thanks again. Thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah. You know us very well.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have a shout out. If I could add this, I am, of course, related by marriage to Derek Robertson, co-creator of The Boys. And he has this friend. Well, let me go back a little bit. We were having a conversation about dream toys. Like if we could go back in time and we could get a toy that we didn't get back then, what would we get? And so I immediately brought up the Shogun Warriors, the original Shogun Warriors.
Great
beautiful
toys.
robots. So many of my friends have them. They're lovely. They have all kinds of accessories. They shoot missiles and little saws and all kinds of, just look them up if you've never heard of them. And I said this, and then he goes, oh, I have this friend of mine who might be able to hook you up with these things. And so to cut to the chase, he makes a couple phone calls and gets me in touch with this person who's going to send them to me. Like, just send them to me. And I almost passed out. It was one of those, collector's moments where you just go, you know, those dreams where you try to get something out of the dream?
Yeah.
You know, it was like that. I was like, this can't be happening because, you know, nothing happens that's positive to me anymore except my marriage, our fans, and you guys, you know. So anyway, yeah. So Derek's friend is going to send me these toys, and her name is Kathleen Blagay. And not only is she just a wonderful person, but she also has a candy store in Gainesville, Florida, and it's called Thornbrook Chocolates. And apparently they're doing very well. It's a very popular store, especially around the holidays. I'm sure they're doing bang up business.
Yeah.
I love chocolate.
So, and we all love chocolate, right? And
Oh yeah.
Why not get your chocolate from a really terrific person? Go to thornbrookchocolates.com, and that's THORNEBROOK chocolates.com. And go buy some chocolates because, you know, you'll be helping me say thank you to her because I'm telling you, this is, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to even think about this. And when they arrive, I think I'm just going to like curl up in bed with all of them and just
in your pajamas,
in my pajamas, and just sleep with them for a couple nights. You know, all the accessories safe, Larry. Don't worry. I'll put the box somewhere else.
All right. Yeah.
I'll pad them so they're fine. But yeah, I need to hold them and love them. So thank you again, Kathy.
Nice.
Well, you know, it might be too late for Christmas, but it's never too late to order Monster Party merch from our eBay store.
Well said.
Because, you know, Valentine's Day is right around the corner.
It is.
Sure.
It is.
You can still find the Monster Party t-shirt, the Monster Party shot glass, the legendary Monster Party cap, the Monster Party PPE mask. You know, I still see people wearing masks around.
Yeah, and you know what? If you get like a tennis ball, you can make it into a ball gag.
Ooh, kinky.
You're welcome.
So you're asking now, where can I, if you've never heard the show before, you're asking right now, where can I find
I was going to ask that, yes.
Fascinating material, and you can find it on our eBay store, which is called, of course, Monster Party Store on eBay, or you can just type in Monster Party Podcast Cap, and it'll come up. And if you buy Monster Party merch and you happen to be a Patreon member, then we will throw in free surprise surprises, courtesy of our friends Jason Lindsay and Biff Bang Pow Toys and creature creator extraordinaire Ted Haynes.
Wow. Boy, you know what? My New Year's resolution is to just love them even more.
Yeah, mine too.
Well, you know, it's the holidays, it's the holiday rush. My head is filled with all of this Christmas carols and Auld Lang Syne right now. And honestly, I can't even remember what this Patreon thing is all about. So can you refresh my memory, please? What is this thing called Patreon?
Well, James, you know how that groovy singer in Godzilla versus the Smog Monster sang the song Save the Earth, right?
Of course. Sure.
Well, saving the Earth is literally what Monster Party's Patreon page does. Is that hyperbole, you may ask? To which I answer, how dare you? To insinuate that somehow I'm a liar about how important becoming a Monster Party patron is, it just pissed me off. I really hate this imaginary person that I'm talking to right now. But anyway, if you join Patreon, you will have access to bonus Monster Party content. And we're talking our special audio episodes, our shows, like all the various toy times that we do that I swear I'm going to do one. It's coming.
Is that your New Year's resolution, Matt?
Yes, that is. Absolutely. Yes.
Nice.
That is my New Year's resolution. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of all the stuff that we have. We have our video trip to Japan, which you can walk in our steps and experience Japan the way we did virtually. And there's story collections that my stepfather-in-law, John Bordeaux, has put together featuring vintage sci-fi and horror. And
Monster Party masterpieces.
Monster Party masterpieces are early films. I mean, my God, right? The amount of stuff that we have to offer.
Convention coverage.
Convention coverage. I mean, I dare you to come up with something that we can't provide, except the thing that we can't provide.
Wow,
So there you have it.
That sounds amazing, but I gotta say I'm saving my pennies to buy all these new Godzilla -1 figures that are probably going to come out soon. So I don't know if I can afford this.
All right. Well, for the amount of money that you would pay for a deluxe 5-disc Blu-ray set of the TriStar Godzilla movie,
right,
you could become a Monster Party patron, and that amount is $5. $5 a month.
What?
That's impressive. I mean, you can't get a 3D printed figure of Godzuki for that price. I mean, really.
That's true.
You know what? I would pay that. I actually would pay that. That's about the right price for me.
Right.
I actually paid more than that, but that's another story. Wow. Well, that is certainly a deal. How does one join this magical Patreon?
Well, all you got to do is you go to patreon.com, you go to Monster Party, you click join, and next thing you know, you'll be passing out not from Godzilla-induced radiation sickness, but from joy.
And speaking of joy, we are on social media. We are on Facebook at Monster Party TV, on YouTube at Monster Party TV. Our Twitter handle, or X, is Monster Party HQ. Instagram, also Monster Party HQ. And hey, we would love to hear your thoughts and opinions and, of course, praise. Please take a moment and write to us, and we will read it on the air. No matter what platform you're listening to us on, find a way to send us your thoughts. We'd love to hear them. And yes, we will share them.
And we won't just read your review on the air. We'll give it to Ghidorah to read 3 times.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, with Ghidorah, it goes in one ear and out 3 others.
Hey, I like that one. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong!
And celebrate all things Godzilla.
And make Monster Party your New Year's resolution.
Happy New Fears! See what we did? Because it's normally New Year's, but then we...
What are we officially calling this, Matt? Did we decide?
Oh, come on now.
It's the Monster Party Godzilla New Year's Eve Bash.
Okay.
No, it's the Monster Party's Godzilla Stompin' New Year's.
Stompin'.
And it's not New Year's Eve, it's New Year's.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then the countdown is to -1.
Oh,
right.
I like this.
Godzilla
All
Stompin'.
drops of -1.
Oh, nice.
I'm glad someone did research. So,
Okay, Godzilla, the Godzilla Stompin' New Year Bash, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go.
Monster Party's Godzilla Stompin' New Year's Bash.
It's a good thing it's not too long. Yeah.
And-
Without Dick
No,
Clark.
it's not long enough.
No. And so August, this is all like a celebration of Godzilla, and I do want to point out that we've all seen Godzilla -1.
Yes.
There's going to be some spoilers, but
Yeah, we'll
kind of wanted when it was start just Godzilla where he started, where he's gone, and this thing, and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, and also celebrate
you.
just the fact that it's the last episode of the year, and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
God forbid we have fun.
Right? is that what we're not doing, Larry?
No, no, I'm Mr. Fun.
He's Mr. Fun, remember?
Mr. Fun.
Come
No,
on.
but
okay.
you reacted like that was a weird thing for me to say.
No, that was
Oh.
a great thing for you to say.
Okay, good.
See, August,
We have-
nothing has changed.
There you go. Godzilla
Yeah.
preserve us.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm just about tipsy enough to try this. I was sort of on the edge about it, and I think it's ill-advised, but this is I have a kind of a shtick about In Memoriam.
Go.
You want to indulge me for a minute?
Of course. If you're tipsy, it's going to be even better.
Yeah, of course.
I know, but this might be really negative. And
but how do you introduce
okay,
how are you setting this up?
I've just been listening to a lot of Ricky Gervais lately, and
oh no,
oh no!
Don't get us canceled.
All right, ready? I believe me. If this is really bad, just don't use it. But
let's hear it. We'll check it out.
Well, guys, at the end of every year, I look back on all the celebrities who we've lost.
Yes.
And whether they're related to the genre or just entertainers or singers,
right?
And we've lost so many in 2023, major ones. We lost Ryan O'Neal, just recently.
Yeah.
What can you say about an 82-year-old boy who died? We lost. We lost Harry Belafonte. He passed. They took him to the mortuary right away. The mortician said, "How long has he been dead?" They said, "Day old."
Okay, that's better. That's better. Go ahead.
Old.
Yeah.
Burt Bacharach.
Oh, I didn't know about him.
He'll never fall in love again.
Well, that's true. Yes.
True.
Jimmy Buffett. Buffett. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but my money's on liver disease.
Nice. Classy. Go ahead. Give me another one.
Lance Kerwin.
Oh, I didn't know about him either.
James at 62, the final season.
Wow.
We'd like to apologize to the members of his family. Go ahead.
Richard Roundtree finally got the shaft.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
David McCallum. Now he really is the Invisible Man.
All right. Okay. Well, that's genre related.
Yeah.
Raquel Welch. She didn't drown. Okay. Now that's a nod to Rhoda Morgenstern from an old Mary Tyler Moore episode. Okay.
Wow.
Sure. That's your excuse. Go ahead.
Suzanne Summers. I won't go knock on her door. Matthew Perry. He won't be there for me. Sinead O'Connor. She couldn't fight the real enemy.
Wow. See, I would have went somewhere with Nothing Compares, although that's a Prince song, but go ahead.
Kirstie Alley. No Genesis Planet for you, Savick.
All right. For you fans.
Irene Cara. Fame. I'm gonna live forever.
Well, that one's right there in front of you. Hey, Lisa, before you go on, Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to Life. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, write them in, guys. Lisa Marie Presley, Santa, bring my baby back to me. Maybe not.
Right?
Never got a dinner.
Yeah. Let's put work babies into this.
This is again like a Shicky Green area, kind of like comic level.
Not necessarily a bad thing for that reason. Yeah, go ahead.
True.
And okay, as I've said on a previous episode, Tony Bennett, he did have a heart condition. He left it in San Francisco.
Right.
And then finally, Paul Rubens. That's so sad. I forgot to cry.
All right.
All week, ladies and gentlemen. Try the veal.
This sounds like it would be great for like the extras at the end of the show when people have maybe tuned out.
Yes.
Like way at the end.
Yeah, way. We'll do that thing. Hey, you know those cocktail CDs that they put out, like Wild and Swinging. You know the ones you're talking about?
Ultra Lounge.
Ultra Lounge, right? Remember how they would do this thing where there'd be silence and then all of a sudden,
there's
like
extra
a French
bonus
guy's voice, and then there'd be 4 more things.
It was like
that's what this will be. A long silence.
Yes. Yes. That's what I see.
Moment of silence. That's perfect.